Hello, my name's Paul Cox. Today I want to talk to you about Green Party policy, specifically Green Party policy under Zack Polanski, aka David Polden. This is part of my This Is series. If you want to see any of the other episodes that I have produced in the This Is series, have a look at the link on the screen now. I have covered This Is British Culture, I have covered This Is Islamophobia, I have covered This Is Cognitive Dissonance. All fascinating subjects which form part of the discourse in the public, political and cultural debate / war today. The Green Party has very much came to prominence from relative obscurity in the last 6 to 12 months under Zack Polanski, who is promising the world and is never really telling us how he's going to achieve it, and every time he is pushed on how he's going to achieve it, he makes it sound like he has absolutely no grip on the numbers or the reality. For instance, he thinks he's going to pick up the phone to Vladimir Putin and say, "Hey Vladimir, my old son, Zacko here. I don't think we need war and nuclear weapons anymore, so how about we all put down our arms, put them in the bin and go for a giant great cuddle." And he genuinely believes that Vladimir Putin, the bear wrestling judo expert from the Kremlin and the KGB, is going to say, "Righto Zacko, no problems me old son. That seems like a good deal to me." And that is just a snippet of how mental Zack Polanski is. But how about we take a little walk through the Green Party policy so that I can't be accused of making stuff up, and we together can learn just how batshit bonkers it is. So, according to the literature, and I'm going to walk through the highlights now, you really don't want to do all the research that I've just done, so you're just going to have to place your faith in me and accept that I've extracted the highlights in order to inform us. Core direction under Zack Polanski, which has been a change, of course, because in the past it was, sewers and waterways and Hessian and the whales, which most of us just went, lovely jubbly, we can ignore that, but you fill your boots. Anyway, core direction under Zack Polanski. Focus on caring majority. Caring majority is the term they're using, versus the elites. By the way, for elites, see evil. For evil, see billionaires. For billionaires, don't just look at people with £1 billion in the bank. Look at anyone who really has made a success of their life, because they are not happy about you. Shift towards eco-populism / democratic socialism. No one's too sure what eco-populism is. Democratic socialism was tried, I think, in the 1930s in Germany. I can't be too sure. Perhaps check the history books / 97.4% of YouTube. But I'm pretty sure democratic socialism has killed millions of people and has very rarely brought about any equality. Because what you end up with is men with mouths like a badly kept graveyard dancing with gay men on a stage in Trafalgar Square, telling you this is the future and you better gobble it down like a good boy. Border agenda beyond climate, economy, inequality and public services. Essentially, their border agenda is, we don't believe in borders. We're going to open up the bastards and we're going to let everyone in as safely as possible. Because as we can see, here in 2026 Britain, that has caused absolutely no problems whatsoever. Fuck. Economy and cost of living. Major economic policies include wealth taxes on billionaires to fund public services. There's about 3 billionaires left in the UK. They're already paying 90% of all the tax taken in the UK. So once they've left, I'm not sure how this policy is going to stand up. They're going to raise £30 billion annually through fair taxation. Fair taxation. They don't actually tell you what fair taxation is in their policy, but let me tell you what fair taxation is likely to be. Anyone earning over about £60,000 a year is going to get taken up the arse for at least 60% of that money, and that's going to go up on an increasing scale until everybody who is successful and is making money and generating jobs doesn't see the point anymore. Rent controls to reduce housing costs. Rent controls. Remember when the SNP introduced rent controls in Scotland? That has done absolutely nothing to help. And let me tell you, the first thing that happens with rent controls is that the dastardly landlords that the Green Party hates so much either convert from long-term renting to short-term rents like Airbnb and coin it in that way. And nothing in their legislation stops them from doing that. And if you stop all Airbnbs, then no one can go on holiday anymore, and no one can afford to go on holiday anyway, so it doesn't really matter, I guess. Or they just sell up. And guess who buys these houses? Yes, the other rich people. And what are they going to do with it? Well, Zack doesn't really know. Maybe Zack is planning to buy up all housing and evenly share it out amongst the proletariat, much like they have done in Russia over the years, Venezuela, anywhere you like to think of, China. Sounds very much like a dictatorship to me, Zack, but you carry on grinding up against Greg. Tackling rip-off Britain. High bills, corporate profiting. Corporate profiting again. Who runs corporates? Wealthy people. What are wealthy people? Successful. We better not allow that. So if they're making money, they need to give it all back. What's the point? Tackling rip-off Britain? Go on then, mate. What are you going to do? We're going to generate energy, because what you need for a successful Britain is energy. And how are you going to achieve that as the Green Party? No one's too sure. Rubbing a couple of beavers together, perhaps. But what they're not going to do is dig for oil, use coal, or use anything that's actually sustainable, sovereign, and available to us. So they're going to go out cap in hand to another group of billionaires to put that fuel into our country, so that we're completely at the behest of another bunch of rogues. Great planning, Zack Polanski. Move away from GDP. Get this. Move away from GDP as the main goal and focus on well-being, public services and community health. So you are not going to be able to measure our financial success as a country via GDP any longer. It's going to be measured by well-being, public services and community health. Well, public services, I guess, is tangible, and you could create a bunch of metrics to measure whether that is successful or not. Relatively unsubjective. But well-being and community health, how on earth are you going to measure those? Are you just going to give everyone sertraline and then take a poll? Because that is not how anyone operates a successful country. In order to be successful, we need to trade. In order to trade, we need to have something to trade. And you cannot trade well-being. You cannot zip across to France or Germany or the US, Japan or China or Cuba and say, do you want to buy a big bag of well-being? Dickheads. Public services and nationalisation. Renationalising water companies. Well, not the end of the world, I guess. Water companies are complete rogues at the moment. There is water pissing out of pipes all over the place. You're paying through it. They're not paying for anything. Massive dividends. It doesn't make sense, I guess. And of course they hate these people because the people that sit at the top of these private water companies are wealthy and successful, and that's terrible. So they're going to nationalise water. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe we should have water that's clean and available for us all, and maybe the government should take control of that. I tell you what, I'm going to accept this green policy and say, not a bad one, guys. Expand and invest heavily in public services, the NHS and local services. I don't know if you've noticed, Zacko, my old son, but we give away, spunk away, splurge into the wank sock that is often the coffers of the NHS, not the services, not the people that work within it, not the structure. the coffers of the NHS, those leeches that suck away billions of pounds every year and give a bog standard service, because there are too many people in the country to serve correctly and in a good way, and you're going to open up the borders and invite more people in. You're going to tax billionaires to pay for that? Well, the billionaires have gone, mate. Gone. Now what you're going to do? Tax the middle classes. Wow, brilliant. Well, it's not as if we've been taxed enough, is it? This whole thing collapses at first glance. First glance. They're going to oppose private companies. Private companies in the NHS. Okay, so I think what they're thinking about here is a company you might not be aware of. I don't want to teach you to suck eggs. Called Planeteer. Planeteer is going to harvest the data systems for the NHS and help it do that. Well, now Planeteer are doing some work in a defence sector as well. They're helping the Ukraine fight their war against the invasion of Russia. They're doing a great job. Do we want them involved in the NHS? Probably not. Maybe not. But what's the alternative? They don't say. They don't actually say. They just say they're going to oppose private companies. I guess that what they're going to have to do is take more public money and put it into the NHS, as they said above, and therefore refer to everything I said previously, and this is absolute wank. Education. Abolish Ofsted. Abolish Ofsted. Okay. You know, you could say that Ofsted is toxic in some way and has caused endless problems. There was a terrible, terrible story of that headmistress. She had her Ofsted rating of the school she was working at downgraded. It's difficult. What do you do? Where do you know? If you're a parent, I'm a parent. You did look as a parent at the Ofsted rating. If it said very bad, you thought, do you know what? I don't want my little cherub to go there. So what are you going to replace it with? They don't know really, but not Ofsted. Reverse academy system expansion. So we're not going to have academies anymore. Now, I don't know if academies are good or not. There weren't academies around when I left school. The school my daughter went to was loosely an academy, but not really, and I never saw the benefit or disbenefit of that in any way. I actually rue the day that they got rid of grammar schools. I never made it to grammar schools. My 11 plus results probably would never have been good enough. Maybe now, with the dedication I've put into my education, I could have achieved it and would have gone on to maybe, I don't know, work for the BBC and the Guardian instead of Talk TV and GB News. Who knows? But academies, what are they going to do? Because the problem is, what they mean by this is they want to take control of education. Of course they do, because if you control what young people learn, you can control what young people do in their adulthood, i.e. teach them all sorts of niff-naff and trivia that's no fucking good. You know, girls have willies and boys have willies and girls have willies and they don't have willies, but, you know, sometimes they can do, and let's just be kind and look at that girl's willy. Maybe the girl's willy is not hers. I don't know. Hey, shift curriculum toward arts, vocational skills and digital age skills. Arts. Right, my daughter's doing an A-level in art. That's a privilege as far as I'm concerned, because I didn't have that privilege growing up. I had to go and get a job. Now, I'm glad that she's got that privilege, and she's got that privilege because I worked hard, not doing arts really, although, I could be working the arts now. I'm a stand-up comedian. I have my own stand-up comedy clubs. I work in media. But I suggest that perhaps we need lots more people doing vocational stuff, which they do talk about here, vocational skills. Okay? We don't know what they're going to be, some sort of woke vocational skills, who knows? Maybe that's a good idea. Digital age skills. Well, I think that actually my daughter could use her art degree towards the digital age, for sure. Most companies now require a social media department to help promote their business in some way. And I think that, people who are very creative could be wonderful in that environment. But where's the core working class value that's propped up England and Great Britain for centuries? Where's that? There's no mention of this whatsoever. Environment and climate, right at the bottom by the way. And all of my research, the Green Party's policy of environment and climate have nearly always been towards the bottom of their offering. It used to be at the very top. Don't forget the Green Party was all about green, not about, jihad. So, environment and climate, stronger action on climate crisis and biodiversity, protect rivers and wildlife ecosystems. Hey, this is Green Party policy. I actually understand this. Oppose pollution from corporations, e.g. water companies. Okay, we've talked about that. This is making sense if you're the Green Party. Continue core green policy, rapid transition to renewable energy. First part of that sentence, continue core green policy. I don't believe him, actually. I don't believe them at all. I think it's going to be secondary or tertiary. I don't think it's even going to enter into their thinking if they were to get anywhere near power. I think it'll be an afterthought. Rapid transition to renewable energy. Renewable energy. At a time of war, where we've got 3 ships and one of them don't work. Every single successful economy and therefore country relies on a sovereign energy source. Now, you can have a smorgasbord of energy sources. I don't disagree with that. Solar, wind, coal, gas, nuclear, oil. You need them all. And if you don't have them all and they're not all yours, you aren't going to stay successful for long, as we can see right now. How on earth they're going to transition from this load of bollocks to the next load of bollocks is beyond me. But hey, write it in your policy. Let's pretend you're going to do it. Housing, rent controls, key flagship policy. This is their key flagship policy, actually, rent controls. So they're going to control rent. The only way you can really control rent is if the government own all the property. And do you know what that is? That's communism. I don't want it. You can fuck off. Greater state intervention to make housing affordable. There you go. First step towards communism. Unbelievable, really. It's not like we haven't been here before. All you got to do is Wikipedia it. Crack down on landlord profiteering. Look, I'm not a landlord. I mean, I own my own property. But I don't own any other property. But I don't begrudge anyone who does. I know landlords. I know people who make their entire living from it. And you know what? The first person that comes to mind is incredibly caring of the people living in his houses. He doesn't want to put his rent up. He really does not want to put his rent up. But if he doesn't put his rent up, he can't pay for the government's mistakes. And therefore, he has to give away his property at a loss, which obviously he can't afford to do, which means the people living in his properties are going to suffer. So what we have here is a system where the government makes a load of mistakes and the landlords pick up those mistakes and have to charge more to cover their arse and therefore get the blame. So the government, through this control, manage to obfuscate any responsibility. And it's the landlords that are to blame. Social justice and equality. La la! Strong defence of minority rights and equality laws. Minority rights. We are the minority now. What are you talking about? It isn't going to, by the way. Of course I understand numerically and statistically white people aren't the minority, but it's not far away. And let me tell you something. If it becomes that way, we're not going to get this. We're not going to get this. They're going to abandon this. A bit like Sadiq Khan and TfL and ULEZ. The minute that they got all of the gas guzzlers on and they realised there was no other market for them to exploit, they put on electric vehicles. So electric vehicles don't benefit now. This is exactly what happens with minority rights and equality laws. It's equality for thee and not for me. Mental. Policies aimed at reducing economic inequality affecting minorities. Minorities! It's all minorities. Define a minority for me. Because there are 6% Muslims in this country. That is undoubtedly a minority. But it feels like there's millions and millions of them, and it's about 92% because of this shit. And they aren't stupid. They've capitalised on this. They've got MPs. They've got like 12 independent MPs. They're only 6% of the population. They're running Birmingham Council, which is on its arse. Support for religious freedom protections. Yeah, I bet they are. Unless it's Christianity. Zack is like a 40-year-old man who has never evolved his political views. Look, just YouTube the man. I'm not going to put it up here. The old boob whisperer. We've heard all this nonsense. Hannah Spencer, the friendly face of jihad. These are the two people at the moment which are the poster children of this movement. Are you buying into it? Do you think they're going to save your future? Are they bollocks? The second that the critical mass happens, that the balance turns, they're going to get rid of Hannah Spencer and Zack Polanski. It's over for them. Immigration and migration. Wow. I wonder what they could put in here. More open and humane migration policies. It's well open, mate. I don't know if it's humane coming across on a boat. Probably not. There's been dead children of the 4 that have come. More open and humane migration policies. Proposals include voting rights for immigrants with visas. Easier family reunification. Well, we know what that means, don't we? You get in here through the safe and easy route. You invite Uncle Bob and all of his paedophile mates. Faster access to benefits. What, you mean it's not quick enough already? They got off the boat and they've got bloody benefits by Monday. When you want them to get them? You can get benefits in France from the UK. This is absolutely mental. Defence and foreign policy. Opposes UK nuclear weapons. Oh, great. Yeah, great. How's that going to work out? All of our enemies have nuclear weapons, but we don't. What are we reliant on? How do we defend ourselves, Zach? Because I'm telling you right now, mate, because you never got bullied enough, you believe that you could negotiate yourself out of any trouble. You needed a few whacks in the chops, mate. I am the way I am because I took whacks in the chops because I was a little dickhead. You need those whacks in the chops, mate. And that teaches you that you need to defend yourself. Also teaches you to keep your mouth shut and not talk this sort of bollocks. Question UK role in NATO. They're going to question UK's role in NATO. Open to leaving it or reforming it. Well, we can't reform it. It's not like we're a major shareholder. What do we bring? Hey, we've got 2 boats, mush. Honestly, under Zack Polanski and the Green Party and this policy, we are dead. Strong focus on human rights in foreign policy. What about our rights? What about incumbent culture rights? What about the people of Great Britain? What about our rights? Why don't you care about our rights? What, you think we've got too many rights? You think that we've got a monopoly? We've got no monopoly whatsoever. What are you talking about, you knobhead? Workers and unions actively trying to align with trade unions. Yeah, that's worked out incredibly well in the past, doesn't it? You don't think that Parliament now is full of trade union activists? Nearly everybody in that Labour majority. And is it working out? How's it working out now? What's the metric? Now's good and we're going to get better? So more of now, which is really fucking bad, is going to make it better, is it? You toothless knob rag. Position Greens as the new party of the working class. No, you will not. You don't even know how to identify the working class. You hate the working class. The working class are putting flags up. The working class are telling you the Islamification of the UK is wrong. You don't like it. What are you going to do? Slip something in the Kool-Aid? Push for better wages, stronger worker protections. Better wages. How are you going to pay for better wages, you wank sock? How? You have no understanding of first principles of economics. How are you going to do that? Stronger worker protections. Workers are pretty well protected in this country, and I don't really have an issue with worker protections. But economies don't grow exponentially if you just clamp down on workers. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. It doesn't work. Rural and agriculture. As if the Greens, right? The Green Party really are the least likely party to understand farming and agriculture or anything like that. Support for farmers, e.g. basic income style support. That is exactly what Russia did in Lithuania throughout the 60s, 70s and 80s. They gave everyone a community farm. They took farms off of people and said, this is your farm now, and you're going to have 100 potatoes a week, and that's all you're getting. It's not going to help, you communist dictator. Focus on sustainable agriculture. Well, yeah, bung that in. That's probably a good idea. Justice and society. Emphasis on addressing root causes of crime, poverty, and inequality. We can tell you. Have you seen Clapham this week? Just have a look at the CCTV, mate. We can tell you. Have you heard about what happened on London Bridge and Westminster Bridge? What happened at Manchester Arena? Have you heard of what's going on in metropolitan cities? Have you looked at Birmingham recently? Have you looked at the East End of London? We know what the problem is. Greater emphasis on addressing the root cause of crime. We can tell you now if you want, mate. You ain't got to look at it. And you want more of that shit. Criticism of punitive justice system approaches. So basically, very liberalised justice. That, to me, is the single most sinister policy. Let me tell you why. Because you need that to prop up all the other nonsense. If you are going to be weak and liberalised everywhere else, then you are going to have to liberalise your justice system, and the police and everybody else are just going to turn a blind eye. Because if you are going to allow the third world and their culture in, you are going to have to build your communities on that third world degenerate culture. And of course there's going to be crime, so you're going to have to be incredibly lenient on it. Otherwise you're going to have prisons filled. You're going to have to just have more people in prison, and perhaps that's how you solve the rent issue. This is mental. This whole thing is mental. And by the way, there's no real official Polanski list yet. This is just from what he said. So this is taken from newspaper articles and all of that stuff. But look, the Green Party and the people that support it will ruin this country. Will ruin this country beyond your worst nightmares. This is not hyperbole. This is based on history. Anybody who's studied history knows that everything they're trying to do has failed previously. That's why our greatest leaders have also been people that have been hated by these people. Because they've seen it can work. Vote for the Green Party at your peril. In the This Is series, of which this is part, this video is probably one of the most important. Because if we have a Green Party in power, or a coalition between the Labour, Lib Dems and the Green Party, we are heading for absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. Wake up. Well, if you like this content and you're liking the This Is series, please subscribe, like, press the bell so you get reminded of everything. Follow me at Paul Cox Comedy on all social media platforms. Until next time, don't vote green and keep it real.